Now everybody works independently, and I have a structured office, open office time where my team is allowed to connect with me with specific client queries. We resolve them. If we need to update our processes, we do, and then we move on. And so it's just a far more fluid kind of environment for all of us. They can do what they need to do without being bottlenecked. I can do what I need to do without being bottlenecked, which is now like work on the business and new offerings and develop those, transformational services. So yeah, it's been very helpful.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fantastic one. Our guest is the owner of Blue Jeans Business Solutions, Rae Gagnon. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm very well, and it's great to have you, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you. So maybe let's start there. How did you end up doing what you're doing today?
Sure. Kind of a funny story because I went to university and I actually got a degree in geography, finished that degree with the full intent to kind of end up back on the East Coast. I wanted to get a job at the Bedford Institute of Oceanography. My father was a cartographer. He mapped ocean floors, and I found that super intriguing. Like that's where I was headed. But I had student loan debt that I had to pay back. So ultimately, I took a position at a real estate office to start making some payments against that student loan debt. And then as I was there, I just kind of naturally progressed through every role within that kind of real estate industry position. So I started as a receptionist, moved on then to deal conveyance, which is better known maybe to you as deal administration. From there on to accounts payable, and then found myself as the financial controller of a real estate office with 2 locations and 75 plus realtors. And so like I had started off as an individual who had no experience in the real estate industry. I didn't even own a property, to someone who just developed this really deep understanding of the industry. And at the same time, I went back to school in the evenings and took a computer programming certificate and started my certified general accounting courses at that time. And so basically what led to the inception of Blue Jean Business Solutions was really a student loan debt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Life is what happens when you are busy making plans.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Very interesting. And so now that you ended up in this, you're obviously in the real estate industry, and so is that a piece of your main business, real estate?
Yeah, so I mean, our firm is niche, and we focus specifically on the real estate industry. So we support real estate professionals, and there's really kind of 2 very distinct perspectives from our approach. There's real estate agents or realtors. They have a very different need than brokerages. So our real estate brokerage clients, which would be the companies that kind of house the realtors, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And so you would focus on both, or do you do specifically the brokerages?
Yeah, we focus on both. And so again, very different services. And so realtors, their main client would be the buyers and sellers of real estate properties, whereas brokerages, their main clients or customers would be realtors. So we do have 2 different streams. We focus on, a lot of transactional and some transformational support for realtors, but also the same for brokerages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So you got your experience, you paid off the student loan debt, you took a job in that industry that directed you towards it. When you decided to start a business, tell us that journey. How did it go from you're working there to running a business, doing it?
Yeah, the catalyst for me was I was at the level in my CGA studies, my Certified General Accountant studies, where I had to select kind of an area of focus. I think my areas of options were like audit, private practice, and then not-for-profit. And so I elected not-for-profit. I left the real estate industry. That was after 15 years. And I moved to a charitable organization. And I was there for maybe 6 months when two of my past colleagues from the real estate industry reached out and they said, hey, we're starting our own brokerage. We need help. And I knew I could help. And so that really was the catalyst for starting Blue Jean. And so I gave my notice at the charitable organization. And my mom said, like, are you out of your mind? She said, you're going to leave a job that has a pension and pays you really well to take a chance on this. And yeah, I was going to do that. So I do suffer a little bit with that imposter syndrome. So for sure, I said to my mom, I'm going to do this, but kindly never ask me that question again.
Yes.
Yeah, and she never did. I mean, she was a great support. I had the support of my husband as well. And I just thought, I have the opportunity here to provide some real solutions for the industry. And I also have the opportunity here to balance my professional and personal life. So, we had a son at home. He was 6 years old at the time. And he was born quite prematurely. So he had a lot of additional challenges and struggles. And I thought this will allow me the opportunity, to attend his doctor's appointments and speech therapy. He's deaf as well, and then advocate for him educationally. And so I thought this is perfect. That was a very naive thought because the business grew very, very quickly, and that would prove to be a challenge actually. But so we started in our master bedroom, just me. At that same time as we started, one of the main brokerage solutions sold their software to another leading company in the industry. And so instantly we had this influx of brokerage clients needing transitional services support to get them from that software to the new software. So I hired immediately. The two of us worked from the master bedroom in my house for probably about, I think, 3 years. And then we found commercial space, signed a lease, and our team has grown. Right now we're at 6 with 2 on maternity leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Very fast and furious.
Fast and furious. Now, how did it grow so quickly?
I think I'd grown up in the industry, so I was quite well known locally. And the main software that had purchased the competing software's solutions and then forced the transition to theirs, I had a relationship with them for 15 plus years. So when I started Blue Jean, they reached out to me and we were in constant contact, and they just kept referring because they knew I could get these people transitioned over, seamlessly. So that's really where the majority of the business came initially, was referrals.
Wow. And that's great. And now, do you live in a small town, big town?
I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Okay.
But our clients are like...
It's a big and small town.
Yeah, that's right. It's a big, small town. At the same time. Yeah.
It's a big, small town.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So that's part of the piece of, like, people knew you. You're in this area that word gets around and people know each other.
Yeah. And I think, ultimately that's kind of where it started, but our software provider that was providing the referrals, they're international. And so, very quickly I was traveling out of province to go on site to support brokerages. That was prior to kind of this virtual world that we all live in now. Right. So there was lots of travel and those sorts of things as well. So it did not stay in Manitoba for very long. I would say probably the first 6 months maybe, and then it was kind of across Canada for sure.
That's right. A fantastic referral partner, and that helped take it to much bigger than Winnipeg and growing your business. We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Bookkeepers don't always get the recognition they deserve, but I know they are vital to the success of small businesses. The team at Bill knows that too. That's why they're celebrating bookkeepers like you with Bookkeeper Appreciation Week. You're going to want to check this out. Bill is the smarter way to create and pay bills, send invoices, manage expenses, and control budgets all on one platform. And they're designed to help bookkeepers succeed and grow, whether you have your own bookkeeping firm or you're a bookkeeper in an accounting firm. I love that Bill can automate time-consuming manual tasks like processing paper checks, coding by hand, or compiling receipts, so you can focus on offering more services and growing your client base. Starting April 14th, Bill's Bookkeeper Appreciation Week will feature 5 days of essential online resources delivered directly to your inbox, plus live webinars, giveaways, and more. Throughout the week, Bill will cover topics like technology, pricing, growth, and the future of bookkeeping. Registration is free, and you could even win a $500 gift card just for attending a webinar. So celebrate and be celebrated with Bill's Bookkeeper Appreciation Week. Register today for free at bill.com/successful bookkeeper. And let your fellow bookkeepers know too. Don't wait. Register now at bill.com/successful bookkeeper. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. What were some of you mentioned already the challenge of, well, growth is a challenge. It's some people wish and dream that if only I could just, get more leads, more customers, all that good stuff. That came and that created its own set of problems. You were dealing with family and trying to raise your child. How did you get through all of that?
I'm a bit of a self-confessed workaholic, I think. I've kind of developed better practices over time, but if I gave my word, I followed through. And so that was kind of, my focus was work. And oftentimes in those early stages, it meant being away from family, which was not what we planned for. And it meant working really long hours. So it wasn't uncommon for me in those very early years to be working easily from like 5 a.m. in the morning till maybe 10, 11 at night. And I think that's how I got through those initial stages. Obviously, that's not sustainable. And I've certainly found my way through that to the other side with a lot of great supports. And hopefully, new bookkeepers now don't need to make those same mistakes, I would say. I was very fortunate that I have a very supporting family. I mentioned already, my mom was a huge support. She was, available to help with our son, Jonah, and my husband as well. He's an excellent support, and he's a teacher. So certainly, in summer, he'd be off for the summer. That would allow me a little bit of flexibility there more so. So yeah, somehow I managed.
You figured it out.
Yeah.
You figured it out.
One step in front of the other.
Yes. And now that you're here, you went from yourself starting a business, and you've said you've got staff of 6 with 2 on maternity leave. How did you make the transition to staff? And tell us a little bit about that journey and some of the ups and downs of that.
Yeah, I mean, the ups and downs of that are really that, everything I knew was in my brain. And I was lucky enough to find Lisa Campbell, A2A, but not until about 8 years into my practice. So initially, everything was in my brain, and it was really challenging when I brought on new team members to have them know what to do and how to do it, so to speak. And so I really didn't have a great system or my processes weren't detailed. And so I think that was one of the main struggles, is bringing people on. And I was just the main bottleneck, I think, for everything that got held up in my business, because I had the information, but it was stored up here, and my team often were kind of left waiting for answers or having to interrupt. And so that was the biggest struggle as we started to bring a new team.
Okay, so the Accelerate to Advisor Mastermind program,
yes,
you did that with Lisa. And so what were some of the things, like how did that transform for you?
Well, for me, one of the main areas of focus was kind of getting those processes out and implementing a practice management software. And it was no easy feat. Like, we were already a firm that had over 100 clients. And so now to document the processes and systems in a way, most people would come through Lisa's program, they'd be done in a year. And for me, it was like 2 years focused basically on those processes. Like, how do I get every process out and documented so that my team can follow it? And that had the most monumental change really on our practice, because not only now do my team know what they're supposed to do, there's accountability built into that, where I know, hey, you checked this off. If you checked it off, it means you did it. And if you didn't do it, then, we ultimately will have a conversation kind of about why or how that might have happened. So that was, I think, the biggest gain from Lisa's program. There were many other gains. When we start off, you don't know what you don't know. So There were other gains such as like accounts receivable processes that I didn't really consider prior to having the business because cash flow was never an issue for us personally. But now in the business, cash flow was kind of a concern as well. So updating our accounts receivable processes was another key area where Lisa's program really helped me.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so now you've got the team members, you've got the systems in place, you've got some other key systems around cash flow and receiving money. Were there other obstacles that got in your way along the way?
Like there are always obstacles in having your own business, or at least for me, there are for sure. And some of those are business and some of those are professional. And every time they kind of present for me, it's just like an opportunity to figure out how to improve our systems or tighten our ship kind of thing. I think, yes, we had other obstacles, but some of them were self-imposed. A lot of them were self-imposed. I might see a better way to do something and we'd move in that direction, And so I think one of the obstacles that I can think of specifically was about us becoming paperless. Like initially, like I said, it wasn't a virtual world initially. It wasn't a virtual practice initially. And so, adopting that commitment to be paperless, that was a big transition. And we did it pre-COVID, like before any of that. So there was resistance, from our clients as well as price increases that we had to deal with. And that was a huge obstacle as well.
Wow. And what would you say, the key things like your superpowers as a business owner, and then on the other side, maybe some of the weaknesses or challenges or obstacles that you have, not really obstacles, but maybe areas of improvement. That's a nice, fresh way of talking about it. So you got your superpowers, you got your areas of opportunity. What are those? What were those two parallel universes for you?
Yeah, for me, superpowers would be like curiosity. I love to learn, so I'm very, very curious, and problem solving. I can see an issue, I'll find that solution right away. And I think my personal weaknesses are like exactly what I spoke about, building out all those processes. That administrative kind of task work is more of a challenge for me, for sure. So having the right resources in place to maybe take some of that off would be key for me.
Okay. And
Yeah.
have you had moments where that's really you've figured that out, where you've been able to take these things off your plate?
I'm definitely getting there. I think that's been my commitment in the last 12-month window. I think we're constantly evolving, right? So as a business owner, I start as a very transactional worker, right? Like I'm doing all the work, I'm taking care of everything. And then gradually I build out these processes and systems where my team can start to do the transactional work and I can start to focus on developing new offerings. And for us, that's really about providing, transformational services versus transactional services. And having the opportunity and the time in my calendar, being very deliberate with my calendar in terms of scheduling. Currently I'm doing the strategic coaching program, which is out of Toronto. So I travel there 4 times a year and really focusing on, tightening up my calendar. This is what I do on these days. This is what I don't do on these days. And it's really more about what I don't do and making a commitment to that. Creating boundaries, I think, has been the biggest solution.
Fantastic. Yeah, and yes, Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, fantastic program.
Yeah.
Now, the industry, let's just talk about, you've gone niche. You didn't go searching for that. It found you.
Yes.
You've been doing that a while. The industry changes. Every industry changes. How do you keep up with that change, and how has it impacted your business?
Yeah. I think ultimately when I think of the real estate industry, it will change from the perspective of the individuals, like the professionals themselves. So like how realtors are engaging with their clients and how they're supporting the products and services that they're providing. Same with brokerages. That's really evolving. But the actual transactional piece of what's happening behind the scenes, it's not evolving at the same pace. And that's really like, if we look at a real estate brokerage, for example, they're governed by so many different, councils and securities commissions in different regions, that anytime there are changes and developments in kind of those areas, they're often very slow and bogged down by kind of legalities and governing those sorts of things. So we don't see the same kind of evolution, I think, in those industries. And sometimes that can be a bit of an issue because, especially for our brokerage clients, they've been doing the same things for so long that they don't even realize that there are areas that they could improve efficiencies. I think us, or me, I recognize that I don't know everything, but I am kind of immersed in this world every day, all day. And so I might not know something, but the minute it's introduced to me or the minute I come across it, it's now added to my knowledge bank, and then I'm able to share it kind of with my network. And so, yeah, a lot of it is just discovery as we go, and then making sure that, again, our clients are aware and familiar with kind of what's going on and what's changing. Recently in Manitoba, we had a real shift where our agents were all sole proprietors, and they were then permitted to incorporate, which wasn't something that could happen in Manitoba. And so, for example, that shift created a change in our industry here locally, where we had a number of agents transitioning the structure of their business and just making sure that they understand, the costs associated with that. Is it even worth it to do it? So there was lots of kind of opportunity and growth, I think, in that specific example.
That's right. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big shift and would
Yeah,
have been a busy time and created a lot of work and also challenges communicating
yeah,
and educating.
definitely.
Yeah. When it comes to, if we had listeners that are thinking about starting their business or they have started their business, what advice would you give to bookkeepers today around growing and starting their business?
Yeah, in terms of growing their business and starting their business, first and foremost, I'd say find a community right off the bat. Like, I didn't know that these different communities really existed. I didn't go looking for them either, but there are great communities out there like Pure Bookkeeping, like Lisa Campbell's Accelerate to Advisor program. Even online, there's lots of different resources. And I think finding a network that you can communicate and connect with regularly is really, really key to success. That's one area. And the other area would be documenting your processes from the start. That's an area I wish I'd known about at the very beginning, because as I was building all these processes in my mind, if I had been documenting them, I would have, slowed down, or I would have not had to spend that 2 years kind of documenting everything after the fact when teams started to come. I think ultimately, if you're good at what you do, your accountants are going to find you. And they're going to start referring business to you. And so just to have those processes documented and you're ready for when they come, that's going to be a huge, huge time saver.
For sure. And you mentioned you were 100 clients in, and then you had to go through the process of
Yeah.
systematizing that entire client base.
Yeah. And it took a long, long time, long days, and it's kind of thankless work.
Yes. Now, you would have had your own systems and processes, and I'm assuming that you implemented the Pure Bookkeeping system. What's the difference between the way you were doing it and something like the Pure Bookkeeping system?
I think, again, Pure Bookkeeping system was kind of implemented with Lisa's programs. And so I didn't do any of that documentation until after that. So that happened basically at the same time.
Yeah, so that would have been a lot of work that you put
Oh,
into to build all of that.
yeah, a lot of work, a lot of
And
hours for sure.
a lot of hours. But then what are the benefits now? Because, and maybe people often, when we talk about systems and process and standard operating procedures, it's kind of like people glaze over.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that? But it's such a critical foundation piece to any business. Have you noticed a lift, or has your staff been able to experience something where there's deeper knowledge and understanding of a documented system for you and your business?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, like, my team now can operate independent of me. I had to step away, I guess it was last October, and I was gone for like 8 to 10 weeks. And during that time, because I had these systems in place, I could step away. It was for a medical procedure, and I could focus really on healing and not have to worry at all about what was happening at the office because all these processes were documented and my team knew exactly what to do. The other benefit of it is it's really easy to identify where there are holes when you start to document your processes, because anytime somebody kind of gets stuck, it's that opportunity to identify what needs to be added or revised or adjusted so that that doesn't happen again. And you're constantly perfecting the system. What it's done for me, I moved away from those constant interruptions. Like it used to be, every 3 minutes somebody would be at my door asking me a question. I can't be productive if somebody's interrupting me, every few minutes, and they need the information to do the work. And so these processes and systems are so important because now everybody works independently, and I have a structured open office time where my team is allowed to connect with me with specific client queries. We resolve them. If we need to update our processes, we do, and then we move on. And so it's just a far more fluid kind of environment for all of us. They can do what they need to do without being bottlenecked. I can do what I need to do without being bottlenecked, which is now like work on the business and new offerings and develop those, transformational services. So yeah, it's been very helpful.
That's the benefit, is that pathway or gateway to getting to freedom.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to implement all of those systems, and certainly Pure Bookkeeping helps reduce, and Lisa's Campbell's program helps reduce the work of figuring it out, but still to implement is huge. So doing that at the beginning with 10 clients or 1 client or no clients would save a lot of pain in the future. But now that you've done the work, you're benefiting, and that's remarkable that you could step away. Was it 8 weeks you stepped away from your business? It was
about 10 weeks, that I actually had to step away.
10 weeks away from your business, and your business continued on its own. I mean, were there setbacks? Did things fall apart?
Like any other time I've taken vacation or anything else, I've always kind of left myself open to communications. And in this specific example, I was like, no, I need to be very deliberate about my health and healing during this time. And so I was really direct with my team. And I think just being so direct in terms of like, okay, I trust you. You guys have the solutions. I trust you to find anything that comes up. It really created a solid divide that gave me the time I needed. But that was me creating that boundary, right? Of saying, like, they could have done it in the past. The only thing that was different is this time is they knew my health was important, and they really respected those boundaries. So no, I had no setbacks at all in that 8 to 10 weeks. I think it was probably maybe like the first few weeks were very critical, and I really needed my time. And so maybe at about the 5th or 6th week, I started to hear from one of my senior bookkeepers, from time to time. But honestly, I think it was more about relationship and connection, right? Like we miss each other because we're a close-knit group. We're together a lot. And so if somebody is not around, you miss that person. And so I think it was really more about that at that point in time than any kind of setbacks or problems.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, it obviously you had to get something, dealt with for your health and well-being, but at the same time, a huge win for you having that freedom to be able to step away, and also for the future and the peace of mind knowing that, hey, I'm going to take a vacation. I need to step away for family or for my own well-being. That's remarkable. And that's the promise that people would want from owning your own business. It took a lot of hard work, but you got it done.
And having that opportunity to really test it, like you said a few minutes ago, it really built my confidence. So now when I take a holiday, it's going to be a full holiday. Like I know it doesn't need to be anything but. And so I think, it forced my hand, but it built confidence in the process.
Yeah, fantastic. That's remarkable. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, what's the whole concept of Lisa's program is this concept of accelerate to advisor.
Yeah.
Did you, when you signed up for the program, were you intent, did you want, what was it that you wanted to get out of that? To become an advisor or just to get your freedom back? What were sort of the drivers for you?
Yeah, not to become an advisor at that point in time. I think I needed my freedom back. I think I mentioned early on, I was working very long hours. I was starting to resent my business, to be honest. I was starting to resent my business. And I mean, Lisa's program helped me identify why that was. I wasn't really clear on why I resented it so much, other than I was always here, I was always working, didn't seem to be really moving the needle, forward. But I realized through Lisa's program, like I was undercharging. I didn't have my processes outlined, so I wasn't getting anywhere. I was constantly dealing with other people's issues. Yeah, and then I think when I implemented Lisa's program with respect to those areas, then it opened up the space to consider advisory. I didn't have the room or the space to consider any of that because I was so overwhelmed in the transactional day-to-day work and undervalued.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And so have you transformed all those areas that you went in with?
Yeah, everything that she introduced in the program, I've followed through on, for the business, and that passion for advisory skills has grown out of that. So since I completed A2A advisor, I've become certified as a profit first professional, and in addition to that, I've become certified in the 6 working geniuses, which is Patrick Lencioni's kind of program as well. I'm doing strategic coaching. So definitely, and it's developed a higher level of thinking with me with respect to my clients. Like I understand that most of my clients, realtors specifically, are looking for transactional work. But I think the piece that's missing is you need that transformational piece.
Hmm.
And, you're living commission to commission. It creates this environment of instability. It doesn't need to feel like that. If you have kind of that full picture of your financials and you understand it's not just commissions, it's everything else that goes along with it, that puts the profit in your pocket, but also allows you to kind of fall in love with your business again. Like you don't
Mm.
want to be, yeah, you just don't want to be a slave to your business. You want to love what you do.
You could spend a couple lifetimes helping that industry
Yeah.
that desperately needs it. And the difference you can make for all of those clients is just, it's unbelievable to think of what Profit First and some of the other pieces that you've mentioned can do for them is great. So exciting for you because there's a lot of them out there in Canada and the United States and internationally, the world. Like you can work with anyone. What I love about your story is that, the program Accelerate to Advisor, you didn't even go in with that in mind. It was like, get my freedom back, stop resenting my business, stop being undervalued. And now here you've created multiple revenue streams for yourself through Profit First and the other programs you mentioned. Like those are businesses in and of themselves.
Right.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great because it really does give you the opportunity to expand upon and grow the business to an unlimited amount.
Yeah, it does. And I think I've always been invested in that lifelong learning. Like we can see it from very early on, like university, then night school, couple degrees there. And so now to have this really focused kind of approach to like what I want to learn next, it's very exciting to me. And I love having the opportunity to explore areas that I know our industry needs and I can help with.
Yeah, beautiful. So, that is the pathway that I see is that you can't get there without the first piece being done. You've got
100%.
to get to freedom with your business. If you're in your business, you're solo, obviously the business is going to do itself. You need to hire staff, and then
Yeah.
hiring that staff, how do you handle that? They need to know what to do and be able to do it as well as you and do it independently of you. And you've proven that over
Yeah.
10 weeks being away from the business. Fantastic. And then that sets you up to do whatever you want, which
Yes.
do advisory, do the passions that you have in your life. But it's so exciting, and I'm happy for your clients to be able to get access to you because beforehand, you'd have all that valuable knowledge. You wouldn't have been able to leverage it and help anybody with it.
No, exactly. There'd be no time. Absolutely no time. You're just stuck in that transactional workload. It's impossible.
Yeah, fantastic. And now I'd love to know what's next for you. Like, what are the big, exciting pieces? You kind of alluded to that, but what's the future hold for you, and where are you heading?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, transformational services. I want to be able to transform businesses for real estate agents and for brokerages, and so it is offering kind of a more well-rounded approach to their financial health. I'm really excited to be able to bring that forward to agents, and I'm going to be offering some like online courses, those kinds of developments. And outside of real estate, I may expand beyond that as well a little bit for, new business owners who I know need this as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
Hmm.
Super exciting.
Thank you.
Absolutely love it, Rae. It's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast and
Thank
to learn
you.
about you. And thank you for your generosity in coming on the show and sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I was flattered to be invited, honestly.
The pleasure has been ours, and such a remarkable story and inspirational for all of our listeners. So thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.